Thank you very much. Hope I'm audible.
Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, let me share the screen and let me know if all of you are able to see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so first of all, thanks for the kind introduction. Yeah, so my name is Ashutosh and I'll be facilitating this session on design sprint. And how many of you have answered the question on the LinkedIn page? I just wanted to check. How many of you have answered this question which was there on the LinkedIn page? You can just type in yes in the chat box if you have done it, because that was a kind of a preliminary question which we thought of posting on the chat box so that we get a quick understanding whether people know about design sprint or not, right? Okay, even if you have not answered, that's absolutely fine. How many of you know design sprint? How many of you know design sprint? And maybe what you can do is you can quickly click on that poll question, which is coming up there on the chat if you have not yet answered. There's a poll question on the chat. And yeah, how many of you know about design sprint? Maybe a yes or a no. You can quickly let me know so that I can, okay, no. Okay, overwhelmingly we are seeing it is a no. All right, okay. Some of you have heard about it. Okay, great. Okay, interesting. And many of you might get confused or might try to mix this with the word design thinking. I'm sure many of you would have heard design thinking. Now that today we'll be covering design sprint, you will come to know what design sprint is. And many of you might want to say that it is both the same, although there are some commonalities between the two. It's not that these two are totally different as such, but definitely there is some distinct flavor also between a design thinking approach and a design sprint approach, which is there. Okay, so quick introduction. Yeah, I mean, I already got introduced, but just a quick introduction. Ashutosh here, having 21 years of experience, and last few years have been predominantly into agile coaching and transformation, where I help the clients in their transformation journey. That's been my experience. I also have, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Then I'm also on social media channels. So you can just reach out to me and we can connect more if you have more doubts or more queries or clarifications needed about this topic, or for that matter, any other topic. I'm really excited to be here with all of you. Okay, so let me start with this some basic introduction about design sprint. So this is a process which was first created in Google in 2010, so not that too old, hardly 12 years old. And Jake Knapp is the person who is credited with coming out with the design sprint process. Okay, all right. So this is a person who came out with it, and one of the very famous products of Google has been developed using this. It is your Gmail, the Gmail account what we have, or the Google Meet, which is the meeting platform from Google, that has extensively used the design sprint process. And the entire ecosystem of Google, whether it's the product development culture, whether it's building the mindset, or whether it's bringing about a product thinking the mindset as a whole, that comes from the Google. So I mean, it is based on the design sprint approach which is there. And yes, as I said, right, I mean, the background of this is of course design thinking. So you have this ideas design thinking framework or a model. The inspiration for design sprint also comes from this model. And then of course some other ideas like Atal Governed Days, the checklist, and ideas like base camps, getting real, those are additional, I would say, reference points or checkpoints for the design sprint approach. And I think those of you who would have answered the quiz question would know the answer by now. It's actually like preparing an instant coffee. So I think many of us would be coffee lovers here. Some of us like to brew our coffee. Some of us like to have instant coffee, right? I mean, obviously the taste is different. The taste, what you have between an instant coffee and a brewed coffee is different. But definitely this is something which is more like an instant coffee, which means it's a 5-day battle tested process where the entire team is constantly on its toes. So you start on a Monday morning, this battle tested process, and by Friday evening, we have something to showcase. We have something to share with our stakeholders and get a quick feedback on that process. So it's a 5 days battle tested process which is there. and which helps you to come out with the innovative product. The whole purpose of design thinking is to come out with the innovative product at the end of 5-day period, right? Again, when you're going to apply it at your workplace, be careful. Initially, it might happen that you might not succeed, or that 5-day period might be too short. But as I said, over a period of time, when you practice, this is what comes out of this battle tested 5-day period, which is there, right? So those 5 days are really crucial. And I'll be walking you through those 5 days period, what exactly happens through those 5 days period. Now, if you're doing this process, you also need a support of lot of tools, right? So one of the very famous tools which is used is Mural, and there's another tool which is used as Miro. So you use a Miro board or a Mural board. These are collaboration tools, and these are especially useful in today's virtual world, right, where all of us are virtually located because of COVID-19. This is one of the tools which we use, either a Mural or a Miro, and those tools will facilitate collaboration between the various team members who are a part of the design sprint process. All right, moving ahead. So let us try to deep dive into what this process is all about, how it is constructed or how it is built, and at the end of the day, what do we achieve, right? At the end of the day, what exactly we get out of this entire process. So that's what I'll be covering as we go along in this journey. Okay, so as I said, it's a 5-day battle tested process. So you start on a Monday, you end on a Friday, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is what we have. And yeah, some historical context I've already given you. It is coming from Google, and Google's company Design Ventures is the organization. Google Ventures rather is the organization which came out with this. And then there are some popular books also. I mean, you can always refer to these popular books at a later point in time. And these are some of the very popular books which are there. Now, if you look at this box on the right-hand side, you will see some acronyms below each of the day. Like you have map, then you have sketch, decide, prototype, and test, right? So as I said, 5 days and a product, or at least the MVP of the product, or a minimum viable a product, is something which is captured as a part of this entire design thinking process. All right, moving ahead. So basically the whole idea about this is that, I mean, if you want to bring about an innovative culture, in case you would like to bring about innovative products, you don't have to run them for a longer period. 5 days or lesser than that should be much more easier for you to build the product. But of course, to build this culture, it requires a lot of things. First of all, you need to get a self-organizing team, a team which can actually do the work, whatever work they would like to do. So it's a self-organizing team which is required. The second important thing is the right attitude, the willingness to experiment, conduct experiment, the willingness to learn from a failed experiment. So if your experiment fails, you might have to start at a ground zero in this entire process, and you need a big wicked problem or a critical problem to solve. So something which is troubling your teams, something which is challenging to the team, is what you need. So you need one big challenge or a one critical problem which needs a solving, a group of 7 to 10 people with diverse skills and areas of expertise. So you'll need product designers, you will need UI UX experts, you will need basically architect, you will need the developers, testers, etc. And they collectively will work together, right? So it's a cross-functional, self-organized team which will work together in order to solve the problem. And then most important thing, at the end of this design sprint, you will need someone to test it. Five key business users. I mean, 5 is just an indicative number. It could be 4, it could be 6, but you will need those 5 users from the real business who are going to go ahead and test this product and give you a feedback. Now, does it mean that my product will go into production at the end of 5th day? The answer is no. It may not go into production, or I might get an MVP 1 of this product at the end of the first sprint, and then I continue to work on it in the next sprint. But definitely something which is viable, something which we can work upon, is what we will be getting as a part of the design sprint, right? That's the entire journey, or that's the entire process which is there. So if I'm sitting on a Thursday afternoon today, tomorrow will be a very crucial day for my design sprint. And if I'm following a design sprint, because tomorrow will be the time when I'm going to test it and when I'm going to demonstrate it to the various stakeholders. So Monday, I would have started my design sprint activity, and by Friday, I'll be testing it and demonstrating it to the critical stakeholders. All right. Moving ahead, let us further move ahead and understand this further. Yeah. And as I said, it is a map, sketch, decide, prototype, and test feature, which is there. Okay. Now, this is closely resembling, if you see on the top, the entire design thinking process. Understand, ideate, decide, prototype, and test. Right? Anyone who has attended any design thinking program or is aware about what design thinking is? I just wanted to do a quick check here before I move ahead. I'm not talking about design sprint. I'm now talking about design thinking. Have you attended any training program or anyone aware about that? Because then you will understand those chevron blocks which I've kept on the top. Maybe I can wait for a few seconds. Okay, so we have participants who have attended a design thinking workshop already. Great, great. I think, and then you have already seen that some of the tools here, you will see they're exactly similar to the design thinking approach, which is there, right? I mean, the design thinking tool which we have. So understand the problem statement, ideate around the solution, decide which solution to pick, which not to pick, build a prototype around it, and test it. Now, we might think that this is an iterative process. This is a linear process, which means things will go like this. No, many times what happens is we might have to come back from here to here in that 1 day period, or we might have to come back from here to here, or for that matter, from here to here back again. So it's not a linear process. What I'm trying to tell is it's an iterative process. And many times you might go through these rounds multiple times before you reach the test phase or the final testing phase. Before you reach, many times it would take a lot of time, right? I mean, although the target is to do that in 5 days, but many times it could take more than, it could involve much of this journey, in which case, obviously, you won't be able to test something. You won't be able to demonstrate it to the business. And that is what is it would be more like a failure of the design sprint. Though I would not like to use the word failure, I would say it's an experimentation which gave you some indication, right? That is how I will put it from a design sprint perspective. Okay, so what are the so what we have to do is before Monday, there are some pre-sprint activities to be done. So usually, let's say today is Thursday, today and tomorrow, I will do some pre-sprint activities, and then from the upcoming Monday, I will start doing the design sprint, right? So my actual design sprint will start on a Monday, but prior to that, I will be doing some pre-sprint activities which are there. So the first step is identifying key stakeholders whom I need to talk to. So it is very important that we have the list of stakeholders ready with us, because only then we will know whom to contact when the sprint starts on a Monday, right? So this is one of the first prerequisite which is there, that you should know whom are you going to work with, okay? Who are the critical stakeholders? And then you can use a tool like a risk, like a stakeholder register, or you can use a tool like a stakeholder power interest grid to figure out which stakeholder is residing on what part of the power interest grid, right? So that's what is the first step. That is the first step, what you do as a part of the design sprint activity. You identify who all are the critical stakeholders in the project and what exactly are their roles and responsibilities which are there. The second is have a discovery workshop with them, maybe an hour or so discovery workshop, and try to identify what is the pain point they are facing, what is the biggest problem they are facing. And again, remember one thing, when we are taking a problem in a design sprint, it has to be really a problem which is a wicked problem in nature, not as something like a run-of-the-mill problem, but something which is more like a wicked problem. Like it could be related to competency development, it could be related to ways of working, it could be related to culture or a mindset. So those are the wicked problems of what we need to identify, and problems which they are facing in the real world we identify, and then we prioritize those problems. So usually your stakeholders will give you 4 to 5 problems. You need to prioritize which problem will be on the top, which is what we would like to take. And you have to inform them that, okay, we'll be working on this problem next week as a part of our design sprint process. Then research your users. Okay, so try to identify, is it really the problem what they have highlighted as the problem, or is it just basically a kind of a symptom of the problem, right? So that's what we will need to do, right? We'll need to identify whether it's really a problem or whether it is more of a symptom to a larger problem which is getting hidden there. So that is research users, right? So be sure to enter the sprint with some information about the user. What are their likes? What are their dislikes? How long they have been facing this problem? Has any attempt been made in the past to solve this problem? If so, what exactly happened with that attempt? Right? Why did not move ahead? What went right? What went wrong? So all those things you will try to identify as a part of this exercise, right? Which is researching the user. Then set the challenge. So setting the challenge involves basically making sure that basically try to have a goal which is somewhat challenging goal, not an easy goal, but a somewhat challenging goal. So try to set out with a challenging goal. And this is something what you will take it in the design sprint. So I'll say that, okay, this is a challenging goal which I will be doing ahead with, right? Also, then most importantly, before everyone comes to office on a Monday, make sure that you have set the space. And this I'm more talking from a physical area. Like you need to arrange a conference room, a big room with a lot of flip charts, large whiteboards, then connections for digital devices, right? Then presentation desk, right? The big monitors, right? Enough space to move around for people to move around and do swarming, right? Breakout sessions, tea, coffee area, food area. I mean, all those things we'll have to set out, because remember one thing, the team will be entirely 100% dedicated for this activity, which means they are not going to go out of this room. They are going to stick in this room during the entire next 5 weeks. So in fact, I have seen some very strong messages also coming out from leaders when they do design sprint, that even phone calls have got a protocol, right? Your personal phone calls, you have to keep it on a mobile on a silent mode, because it involves heavy immersive thinking. So as a team, you really immerse yourself into this journey. You do a lot of immersive thinking and then try to work towards the real problem solving. So real problems have to be identified and real problems need to be solved as a part of your design pre-sprint activities. So that's something, immersive learning is what you have to be ready with. What is not mentioned here in the standard catalog, but I do it, is that I also call the team on the Friday. Like tomorrow, if I'm following a design sprint, I will call them tomorrow and I'll give them a briefing that what will happen on a Monday morning, or what exactly the team will be performing as an activity on a starting on Monday morning, 8 o'clock when they come to office, right? So that's additional thing which I do, although it's not a part of the standard catalog, but this is something which I do as a part of this kind of a briefing, briefing for the team, the do's and don'ts, what they should be doing as a part of design sprint activities, or rather pre-sprint activities. Yeah. Any questions here so far? Anyone has? I hope it is clear so far what we are trying to do here. Just wanted to take a quick check here with all of you. Hope this is any questions, please feel free to pause me at this moment. Anyone, any questions? Okay, it's clear. Okay, thanks Maria, thanks a lot. All right, because now we are going to go into the actual sprint process, what we do on day one, what we do on day two, what we do on day 3, day 4, day 5. We are actually going to go into the details of this. Okay, so that's what we'll be going into it. Okay, now obviously you will, before I go into that, you will ask me what are the roles. So usually, I mean, I always try to keep it a leaner structure. I have someone who plays the role of a facilitator, someone who's a coordinator or a facilitator for the design sprint. And then I keep everyone else as a member, right? Member of the design sprint team, rather than compartmentalizing them into roles like a tester, developer, BAs, etc. I usually try to follow a simplistic model, which is a developer and a developer who is going to basically work on it. That is what I normally try to follow as a part of the design sprint activities. All right. let us go to the first day. So the first day, the team meets at 8 o'clock or whatever time you decide, and they set up a goal. When I say a long-term goal, it is for the 5 days. Okay. And there are some questions which are asked. Why are we doing this? What is the motivation for us to do this? What problem is the user facing currently? Right? What is the main problem the user is facing currently? What are the challenges? Has this problem been solved in the past? What is our actionable item? What is it that we would like to take from here back into the once we solve the problem? And you try to rephrase your assumptions and put them as a part of your sprint questions. So one more important thing is that the problem owner or the person who has got this problem, he also should be a part of this exercise. Okay, he should not be that, okay, I have given you the problem, now you solve it. As a team, we will need to converse with that person at periodic interval. So what you need is that person whose problem you're trying to solve, that person should be available for any discussions which are there. We use a lot of interesting tools like empathy mapping. We have a tool like a swim lane diagram, or basically a customer roadmap or a customer journey map. So those are the tools what we use. And if you remember, I was talking about the Miro board. Let me open up a Miro board for you. And yeah, this is a Miro board which I'm trying to open up here. And let me open it up for you. So this is a tool. This is a tool where you can use it. I mean, especially in a virtual world, you can use it. So you have these templates available here. So if you look at this customer problem statement, you can use this template, or a customer journey map. You can use this tool, which will help you understand what exactly is the challenge from a customer point of view, right? This is the entire journey map from a customer perspective, right? What is the journey which the customer is facing? What are the key goals and needs? What are they currently struggling with? What tasks do they have? And you try to get this done, right? I mean, on the day one, you try to get this entire customer journey map get filled up, which will tell you what exactly you're trying to do. Of course, this section, the blue color section, will only come at the end. Okay, that will only come on the 5th day of the design sprint, which is there. Okay. Okay, so this is like this. Describe how the life and environment of the customer changes once they have used the product or services. This section will be at the end, but definitely the middle section. The middle section is something what we can definitely start filling it, or we can go ahead and fill it. And this tool is called as Miro tool. I'll share the link with you in a moment. You can create a free account on this site. Okay, and it will allow you to have 3 boards. So 3 boards are allowed to be crafted by default. So you can definitely use it for your design sprint, because I think to start with, 3 boards should be enough for you, right? And then if required, you can go for a paid version. But at least to start the design sprint as an activity, 3 boards should be more than enough. If you ask me to start with the design sprint. So yeah, so this is a customer journey map. You have empathy mapping, you have swim lane diagram. So those are some of the fundamental tools which are used in order to craft your design sprint. Okay, so you also have basically this one. If you look at this, if you go here, you also will be having a swim lane diagram. I'm pretty sure it should be there. Yeah, see, the swim lane diagram is also there. And I'm not sure about empathy map though, but I think it should be there. Yeah, even the empathy map is there, right? So you can use any of these templates and the purpose of this is to capture what exactly is the pain point of the customer. What is it that we are trying to achieve, or what is the pain point or the main customer touch point which we are trying to address with this problem. Now, this tool is an empathy map. This is different than the one which I showed you in Miro. And this talks about some sections. Okay, so in an empathy map, what you do is you use sticky notes and you write, what does the customer think and feel, right? What does he or she see? What does he or she hear? What does he or she do? What are the pain points? What are the gain points, right? So that is what we do as a part of our empathy map, or what we do as a part of our empathy journey or a customer journey. We try to figure out that from a customer perspective, what are the critical problems which are being faced here, and we try to then identify the problem statement. So day one is about basic understanding the problem, and trying to figure out what exactly is the problem all about, right? Or we can also use a customer user journey map, something like this. It's a timeline of actions that a user has undertaken with your brand or with your product. So whatever steps the customer is interacting with your product or with your brand, that basically is a user journey which is there. So user journey mapping is all about the timelines of all the touch points. Like here, if you see, this is more like a weather site. So user logs in into the app for the first time. So it could be the weather application in your smartphone. User tries to find a local weather, right? Assuming that your GPS is not on, you have disabled the GPS location sharing. So it will ask you, okay, which city's weather do you want to locate, right? User can't figure out how to enter information. User watches the onboarding tutorial, and user then sets up the first customized report which is there, right? So this is the entire user journey roadmap which we have. And one more example of a tool which has been used using design sprint is basically Grammarly. I think you would have seen the Grammarly ad on YouTube, right? I mean, it comes after every YouTube video which you're watching, that why Grammarly is so the tool to have, because it not just does a spell check, it also will tell you how you should rephrase a sentence, how you should go about and change the sentence is what Grammarly also tells you that. So that's the purpose of a design sprint, or that's what a design sprint as a activity we are going to use there, right? So this is day one. You have identified the problem statement, and most importantly, you have got it validated from the person or the entity which is facing the problem. No point in moving to day two if you find that the problem is not validated or the problem has not been approved, because then your entire design sprint is going to fail, right? Your entire design sprint in that case will not be a successful design sprint. All right. Moving ahead, day two. Now that the problem statement has been identified, you have to sketch the solution. And again, one misconception which all of us have is that you need to be a good artist. No, not necessary. Although you can hire a graphic designer as a part of your team who does the sketching, but not necessarily you need those skills. You don't need to have those good drawing skills and all. You could be using any of the normal graphical tools. In fact, I have seen people using Microsoft Paint also for sketching the solution. Or the best tool is pen and paper. This can be the best tool what you have to sketch it out. And there are different techniques. The 4-stage model talks about notes. So the first 20 minutes of the day goes in taking notes, right? What can be your thought process, how you should proceed ahead with this, right? So you just gather notes, and based on the ideas and inspirations you have taken earlier, then you doodled a rough solution. Try to come out with some 2 or 3 ways in which this can be solutionized. Then we have something called as Crazy 8. So take your strongest solution and sketch out 8 different variations in 8 minutes. So you're challenging your brain. You're challenging your brain to come out with 8 ideas, right? So that is a Crazy 8 exercise. And finally come out with the solution, the final solution, and end-to-end solution. So this is one of the ways. Then you can also do something called as peer sketching, which means I sit along with my peer, and we both, I mean, it's always 2 minds are better than pairing, we call it, right? I mean, in the classic Agile world, we call it as pair programming. Here we call it as pair sketching. So two minds are always better than a single mind, right? So we have 2 people working in together, 2 people sketching the ideas and working together is what we do as a part of this entire exercise. So this is sketching the solution which is there. Now, again, this requires a lot of collaboration. This requires a lot of sketching, a lot of throwing the paper in the dustbin, because if the sketch does not come out as intended, and you spend practically the entire day in sketching out the problem or the solution to the problem. So if it is a Gmail, you'll try to sketch out how the Gmail interface looks like. If it is a Google Meet, you'll try to sketch out what all features it would be having, the do's and don'ts, all those things you will try to sketch out as a part of this design sprint day number 2, which is called as ideate or sketch the solution. Okay, the day 3 is where we have to figure it out what exactly we are going to work upon, right? So you put all those sketches, the Crazy 8s and all, on the like an art gallery. You create an art gallery or a museum, and we make it anonymous. Okay, so whatever ideas have come from the entire team. By the way, this day two, you can work in pairs. So if I have 8-member team, 2 people come out with 5 ideas. Each team comes out with 5 ideas. So we have 5 teams. So it will be predominantly 20 to 25 ideas, right? 20 to 25 ideas will be coming out. So you put all of them on a wall and you make it anonymous. Okay, you actually keep it and try to keep it anonymous so that the biasness goes out. And then what you do is you can do voting. You can either do voting, or many times what I've seen is if there are 25 to 30 ideas, we shortlist those from 25 to 30 to 10, the top 10. We first go with top 10, and within top 10 we go with the voting. So either you vote all the 25, or you or 50, or you vote basically create a shortlist, and then you give a voting rights for the 10 which have been shortlisted. So what happens is each person, I mean, when we do a dot voting, each person gets either a 3 dots or 5 dot stickers. It is up to you to decide whether you want to use the 5 dots on one idea, or you want to use, let us say, 3 dots, I mean, on one idea, 2 dots on other, or 1 on each of the ideas. And finally, we go by the voting. Finally, we go by the voting. This could be one approach, right? This could be one approach which is there. Then another one is speed critic, which means kind of I select a drawing that is not my own and quickly walk through the solution and use sticky notes to capture some big ideas, right? So I look at your ideas, you look at my ideas, maybe someone else looks at someone else's idea, right? So that is what we do. And then also the facilitator has got a kind of a final decision maker. He also gets 5 or 3 dots, and he or she can also go ahead and do the voting, right? So the whole idea is that democratically we select which idea we should be picking up, right? Which idea should be picking up, and that is what we do as a part of this decide sprint. Now the idea which is selected, okay, we basically create a story, right? Okay, so basically we try to build a pre-story and a post-story about the product, so that the context when we are doing this is clearly set, right? So this is the day 3 of the design sprint, which is deciding. Now as a team, you're going to deciding. It might appear a very easy technique, but many times we may not be able to arrive. Okay, we may not be able to arrive at a consensus. Now, when we are doing this, okay, when we are doing this, one more important thing we could be doing is many times, as I said, the decision may not be reached that quickly. So we use some decision-making techniques. Okay, so we have some decision-making techniques which we use. One, of course, is, I mean, this is through voting. Again, this is through voting what we do. One is voting results in a unanimity or a consensus, which is very rare to happen, but sometimes it happens. All people agree on a design. Okay, all the folks who are there present, who are voting, there's a consensus. There's a consensus around it, right? So that is what comes in as a part of the decision-making technique, which is there, that is unanimity. Second is majority in that dot voting. Majority is more than 50% agree on a decision. That is majority. The third one is very interesting. Plurality. The largest block in a group decides, even if they are not in a majority. Now, this is appearing very, I mean, very contradictory, right? They are largest block, but they are not in a majority. So what is plurality? Plurality is something like this. Okay, it goes something like this. Let us say there are 10 people in your team. We have 10 people in your team, and the distribution is like this. 4 people like idea A. Okay, then we have 3 people who like idea B. Okay, 2 people who like idea C. Okay, so this is what we have, idea A, B, C, and 1 person liked idea D. Now, if you look at it, out of 10 people, 4 is not a majority. 4, in fact, 6 people are against idea A, but we go ahead with 4. We go ahead with 4 because basically that is plurality. That is what we call it as plurality. So largest block in a group decides, even if not in a majority, is what we call as the plurality here, right? So they are not in a majority, but still being the largest block, we will go ahead with idea A because 4 out of 10 people are voting, which is the largest block. The fourth one can be, and this is not a, I mean, maybe not a correct word to use this, but this is called as autocratic decision making. Okay, this is coming under autocratic or autocracy, what we call. Okay, so what is autocratic decision making? The autocratic way is one person decides for the entire group, though not recommended. Okay, this is not recommended basically, but one person decides for the entire group. So that is, I mean, when the team is inexperienced, when the team is unable to decide, or we have got into multiple rounds of this, and yet we have not been able to decide, then we give that opportunity to that one person to take the decision on behalf of the team. So that is called as a autocratic decision making technique, what we have. So this is autocratic decision making technique, right? So these are some of the techniques, or these are some of the ways by which you can take a decision. Unanimity or consensus, where more than 50% agree on a single course of action. Then we can go with majority, then we can go with plurality, and then we can go with autocratic or autocracy, or one person deciding for the entire group. All right. Day 4. Okay, now this is where the rubber hits the road. What do we mean by that? This is a time now to prototype it, right? Come out of now paper and pencil or whiteboards into the real action. You have to actually create a prototype. Okay, so basically the prototype is like a kind of a model, a miniature model, which will show them, okay, how the real product will look like, right? How the product will look, right? And as they say, right, you should create a prototype which is of Goldilocks quality, which means ideally the quality should be good enough so that it appears real to the users, but not that too much that you spend too much time in perfecting it, right? So this is a prototype of what we have here. And basically, you might want to divide the team into various roles, like makers, people who are actually building the product, right? At least 2 designers or engineers responsible for creating the individual components of the prototype. You need a stitcher, someone who's going to stitch the various components, right? Basically, who's going to combine them into a seamless fashion. Writer, who's going to write about the product, right? Realistic test or user manual, or something like a quick manual to the user is what this writer is going to do. Asset collector is basically who will collect all the pictures and all from the web, put it in a site or put it in a library from where the product will use it, right? Or relevant information to help design this product, right? So that is the role of an asset collector or an asset creator. And finally, the interviewer, because remember, it is Thursday morning now, or Thursday started. So you have to also demonstrate it to the user, right? So when you interview with customers, when you show this prototype to the customer, you are going to take a feedback. You're going to ask them, okay, what did you like about the product? What did you not like about the product? Should we actually improve the product further? So all these things we do as a part of the interviewing or an interviewer. So what we do is, and by the way, one person can play more than 2 of these roles. Not necessarily that you only need one person to play this role. You can have more than one person to actually play this role. I mean, for example, maker and stitcher can be same, or maker, stitcher and writer can be same. So as such, there is no rule around who plays what role. But anyone, I mean, we basically divide the team into various roles, and the purpose is to build something, right? I mean, if you see the word cloud there, it talks about sampling, it talks about modeling, it talks about rapid prototyping, cost is involved, design, working concept, something evaluation, all those things are coming in as a part of prototype. And this is again, as you can see, right? I mean, none of the days is a day where the team is having a relaxed schedule, right? It is entirely going from day 1 to day 5. It is entirely going in basically through that journey, right? I mean, that entire journey is always on there, walking on the tightrope, as you can see there, right? So this is day 4, which we have, where the prototype comes in. And day 5 is where we actually bring in the real users. Okay. So many times what happens is day 4 and day 5 overlap also with each other, which means that some part of the day 4 work might get spilled over to day 5. But basically, we have to involve the real users. So don't involve users who are not real, okay, who are not real product users. So one mistake which we make in design sprint is we involve users who are not real users. Okay, so identify 5 users who fit in into your target customer model. Okay, so basically the whole rationale is that if I'm able to identify the 5 real users of the system, then we would have at least identified 80% of the problems after listening to 5 people, right? So the key takeaway is it is a user-centered process. So finally, the users have to validate it, consider all the perspectives, gather all the important people in one place. The team is cross-functional. And basically, it's an efficient process because you complete this something in a 5-day period, right? It forces you to time box your activities. So if you're as a team, if you're spending 2 hours, 3 hours in this meeting, definitely you'll realize that you have wasted a lot of time, right? Because what has happened is you have actually created basically, or you have spent too much time on discussing something which was not worthwhile. So that 5 days period actually time boxes you and make sure that you don't end up into what we call as um, uh, Parkinson's law, right? Work expands to fill in the available slot. So if I tell you that no, it is not 5 days, it is 7 days, then again people will become relaxed, or what we call a student syndrome, right? That you normally pick up the book only on the last day or 2 days before the exam, right? So that is basically the 5th day, which is the test which is there. And yes, as I said, you may not have a successful design sprint, but basically you will fail fast. You will learn from that failure. You will fail fast. And then what will happen is you will learn from that failure. You are going to learn from that failure, and you're going to learn how not to repeat the mistake, right? How not to repeat the same mistake again. Now, remember one more thing. Okay, one more important thing we need to understand is we could do a demo of various formats. Like you can do a live demo, you can do a kind of a walkthrough, you can have a prototype which you run through. So those are the different ways in which demos can be done, or in which you can go ahead and conduct the demo. And yeah, I mean, avoid PPTs. The golden rule in that demo is we should avoid PPTs, because PPTs are basically going to be a waste of time again. Rather, show the customer a real product. Show the customer something which is very, very real, and something which he or she can start using it from the immediately from the day 1, right? So that's something what we need to do as a part of this exercise, right? Right. Now, some very interesting things. Okay, some very interesting things about this is that it's a battle tested process, which means it has worked in the past, right? And big companies have leveraged it, right? Whether it is Apple or whether it is Google. So those are the companies which have leveraged this process. And the whole intention is to learn fast and fail fast. And okay, it's okay if I've not solved a problem, but at least I know now how not to solve this problem. So in summary, what I would like to tell is, when do you run a design sprint? Is it something which is applicable everywhere? Well, yes, I would say that it is applicable for assessing the new viability of a business. So let us say a startup company wants to identify the viability of a new business. They can use a design sprint. When you want to jumpstart a new product, service, or a result, or ideate for a specific area of the product, like if you want to take WhatsApp or let's say Telegram to the next level of product. Identifying the right priorities for a product, you can use a design sprint. Many times our product owners or product managers struggle to identify the right priorities for a product. Creating an MVP or a minimum viable product roadmap, engaging new audiences when you want to attract new customers, and define marketing and growth strategies. As a whole, you want to define the marketing and growth strategies for your product. That is when you should be running a design sprint. When you should not be running a design sprint. Okay, try to cover all the aspects of the problem at once. So remember, if there are multiple problems which are there, you cannot do a big bang approach and solve all the problems in a week, right? It is physically impossible. It is not practically possible and physically impossible for anyone to say that I will solve all these problems in one go, right? That is one thing which we need to remember. And the second thing is, when you are exploring multiple use cases and hypotheses, right? Then again, design sprint may not work. And last but not the least, the problem is ill-conceived or not defined properly, right? So your problem statement itself is not clear. It is an ill-conceived problem statement, and it is basically a problem statement which has not been defined properly. Okay, so that's what I would say from a design thinking perspective. And yeah, I would like to talk about some 10 key commandants of a design sprint. The 10 key commandants are leave titles at the door. So when you're working in a design sprint, there's nothing called as a hierarchy that I'm your manager or you're my junior or subordinate. We all work together collaboratively to work towards this, sprint, right? To make sure that the sprint is a successful sprint. The second important commandment is encourage wild ideas, right? So do not ridicule. If anyone is giving an idea, do not ridicule. Oh, it's such a silly idea, it will not work. The golden rule is capture the idea. You might later on decide whether to use it or not use it, right? But definitely encourage, think outside the box. Encourage teams to think beyond the obvious is the second tip. Go for quantity, especially in that second day, right? Sorry, in the third day, when you're trying to get more and more ideas, go for quality, more the merrier, right? The challenge should be that each person should at least give 4 ideas, right? So go for quantity. It is good to go for a voting with maximum number of solutions in place, right? Quality will come later, right? We make sure that quality systems are baked in into a design sprint process. Build on the ideas of other. Many times we might also do that. Okay, I proposed an idea, someone else proposed the idea, we get a solution which is a blend of both of them. So some part of A, some part of B, we build a solution which is a blend of both of these ideas. Think human-centered. Again, remember, whatever tools we saw, whether it's a customer journey map or what we saw as the empathy map, that is, the customer is at the center, or the customer is at the focal point of this entire journey which we have. Be visual and tangible, right? Lot of visual thinking you will have to do. And again, I'm saying that you don't need to be a good artist or a painter to do this. You could still be doing visual thinking even if your drawing is poor, or if you see that the drawing what you're trying to draw is not as long as it is representing the key stakeholders, that should be fine, right? There should not be any problem in representation perspective per se. Then seventh key commandant is avoid criticizing others. It's all as a team what we have. So many times we also do a retrospective at the end of the design sprint. The intention is to learn what went well, what did not go well, and what are the areas of improvement which are there, right? So we tend to avoid criticism, rather focus on helping each other, right? So don't just go for coordination, go for collaboration. There's a fundamental difference between coordination and collaboration. Coordination is a temporary coming together to solve the problem, whereas collaboration is all about making sure that the problem is permanently resolved or permanently eliminated. So avoid criticism. Eighth one is fail fast and learn, which I already told you. You learn something very, very fast, and you fail first and learn very fast from it, rather than failing at the end. It is better to fail at the end of fifth day so that you learn quickly out of it. Stay focused. So the facilitator has to make sure that the team is focused on the work, right? They are not getting distracted. And as I said, during the entire 5-day period, the team is in that room. No outside phone calls, no one calling to solve any production issue. It is clearly told to the managers that these people are going to be dedicated and they are going to be available for the entire design sprint only with us. And last but not the least, have fun. This is one area where you will see a lot of fun happens, lot of enthusiasm is there, lot of skills you pick up during a design sprint process. We learn from each other, we try to collaborate and help each other. So it's like a team which is bonding well together in that 5-day process, right? And the experience is something which you can only know by really following a design sprint. I mean, I may not be able to tell you very succinctly here that how that experience is. It's a very exhilarating experience, because you are actually, I mean, you're working your passion. You're not even thinking about work as a stress, right? It is because you're so passionate about that product or that new feature or that new solution that you actually tend to be more creative. You tend to bring about innovative ideas as a part of this. So those are the 10 commandants of a design sprint, or the 10 mantras of design sprint, which I would like to share. Lastly, I would like to leave you all with this quote, a very famous quote by Steve Jobs. Design is not what it looks like, feels like. Design it how it works. So ultimately, the proof of the pudding is it has to work. So whether it is Gmail or whether it is Google Meet, it should not remain a product on paper. It is something which has to work out, right? It is something which needs to be executed, or which needs to be used by people. That is the proof of the pudding, right? That is what we call as the proof of the pudding lies in eating. Design has to actually work towards it. So on that note, I close my session and I open the floor for any questions. I will now open the floor for any questions. And yeah, this is about myself. Yeah, before that, let me also quickly show you about myself in case anyone joined this session late. You can know more about me, and feel free to connect with me on YouTube or on LinkedIn. But yeah, any questions anyone has, please unmute yourself, sorry, and I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. Anyone, any questions? I hope you found the presentation useful, something which you can take it back to your workplace and you can work on it. I hope the last 1 hour which I spoke was something which was beneficial to you. But yeah, I'm again open for any questions if anyone has, or you
We
can also
do
type
have
in the
one.
question.
Sorry, Jim, we do. Ricky actually asked the same one. We did have one from LinkedIn. Ricky asked the same thing. Will you be able to share the slides?
Yeah, I will share it to you, a PDF version, if that helps.
Yep, you can email it to me, and then I will drop my email in the chat here and also on LinkedIn, and then anybody can email me and I will forward them on to anybody who wants them. And then go ahead, Jim. I'm sorry I interrupted you. I wanted to get that question and asked before I forgot.
Oh, I didn't have a question.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you did. Ricky, if you have one.
Yeah, I do have one. And I think somebody did you want to ask about BDD? That's exactly what I wanted to ask about. And how do we, because I'm always about the behavioral designing based on the behavior rather than conceptual. And that's where I utilize a lot of input from end users and SMEs. How do we bring those together into this iteration? Into this process? Good
question. Yes, good question. So definitely when you are in this 5-day process, right, especially when you are sketching the solution, this is where I feel, this is a good opportunity where you can also involve the users. Although if you look at this entire journey from day 1 to day 5, our real users are coming at the end. But it is a good practice to also, when you're sketching the solution, you try to get a feeling from the real users or what are their pain points, right? So you try to interview them, you try to discuss with them. And then, yes, you can use an ATDD or BDD, acceptance test driven development or behavior driven development techniques to sketch out with the solution, because that will give you the real pain points or the problems faced by the end users. So yes, definitely you can blend a BDD or a ATDD technique with this. Okay, I think, I hope I've answered your question, Ricky.
Yes, you did. Thank you. Yes, you did. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I think Maria has a question. What was the most transformative design sprint you participated in? Okay, so this was around, I would say around 12 years back, where suddenly there was a new requirement from the client. And yeah, it might sound like a similar thing, but or something easy to do, but definitely not in those days around 12 years back when the technology was limited. The client wanted an integration of the product with Outlook. So whatever product we had, it was more like a revenue generation software for one of the airlines. And they wanted an integration with Outlook. And in those days, WhatsApp was not there. I'm talking about 15 years back, in fact, 15, 20 years back, in fact, more than that, where WhatsApp was not there. And they wanted these reports to be sent as a text file in a SMS. I mean, as a text in an SMS. Right. So we actually went in for a design thinking, a design sprint process for that 5 days. And we tried to, we came out with an email integration platform for the product. So this was a commercial, this was not a commercial off the shelf software. This more like a bespoke software, what we had designed for them. And we came out with that email integration tool within a span of 5 days. And obviously we got a lot of appreciation from the customer around it. Okay. Anyone else? Any questions?
I'd just like to give you 2 thumbs up.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Really liked it. And yeah, I would also like to thank the Expert Agile Club for inviting me. It's really an honor, and I really appreciate you inviting me for this. So thanks a lot.
Mindy, I have a question. I see some great people here on joining us from all over the world. How do we try to connect with one another?
You can drop your LinkedIn in, or that's usually how I just let you know. Go ahead and drop your link. People can drop their LinkedIn in. Is usually, go ahead and drop it in the chat box. Is one way to do it. Is usually, a lot of people will just go ahead and, at the end, feel free to drop in your LinkedIn to connect. Is usually how most participants usually do it. Is the best way to connect with everybody. It's how is the easiest way to do it. Yep, that's what I was going to say. Is just start. That's how a lot of times I will start connecting with people as well. That's why I start dropping mine in. Feel free to drop all of those in there, start connecting. Another way is you guys can start sending them to me. I can send them through as well. So I will drop mine in case you guys miss anybody's. Let me get mine in here too. I can start making a nice little spreadsheet up and of everybody, and just if you want to connect with me, or even if you are connected with me already, and just put, hey, I'd like to be added to the list to start connecting with everybody in the webinars. I'll put you in the list, and then I can I can start sending it to people as well. And I can start creating a list of everybody that wants to start connecting through the webinars. And we can start that I can start that as a little project as well. So everybody can connect, because I know there's different people in each one. And I'd be happy to start doing that as well. Because I know it's a little harder to get everybody. So just let me know. Feel free to connect with me. If you are connected with me, just go ahead and shoot me a message. You want to be added to that list. And I'd be happy to do that. And on that note, thank you, Ashutosh, for being here. Thank you, everyone, for being here as well. Learned a lot once again. Thank you, everyone. We do have another webinar next week, Wednesday, the 16th. I don't know why that says at 16 p.m. I don't know why it's at 7 p.m. I apologize. I should check my typing a little bit better. Wow. I really apologize for that. I am so sorry. And
Mike has a quick question.
Yep, go ahead, Mike. Go right ahead
My
so I
pleasure.
can fix that.
Thank you. Ash, I'm just curious, have you ever tried using this process where you would involve customers during the ideation sessions?
Personally not tried, but I have other coaches who have used it. I mean, when you're ideating for the product, right? When the product itself is not known, that is what you're asking, right?
What I'm thinking of is if you want to fail even faster, then and probably better, maybe, then coming up with ideas that are driven by the needs of the people in an organization, and therefore are biased by their view of what customers might want, but rather get the customers in to try and design solutions to the problems that they've come up with themselves, and really make it customer centric, customer focused, and customer first.
Got it.
How can we get that? And I'm thinking the only way that you can really do that is by moving customers really to earlier stages than simply at day 5.
Absolutely right. I mean, one thing you can try it out is maybe make the customers the team members. I mean, it's difficult, I know, but if customers themselves become team members, then I think the solution would be more closer to them. I agree. Rather than even day 5 is a little late in that journey day, I would say, or in the week, I would say. Maybe if you can get them or you do a briefing with them on a Thursday or on a Friday and tell them that, okay, we need at least 2 hours of your involvement on a day-by-day basis. That also can be thought of, yes.
And I think that could quite easily be done when you're identifying stakeholders in day 1, day 2.
Correct, yes.
That's great, Ash. Thanks very much.